from the South Carolina area.
Yeah.
I don't know if he lives over here or not now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he just made the trip out. I feel like he's been playing a lot more Magic lately, though.
Yeah, he has started to fire up a little bit now. So he is playing, and that is not a mislabel. He is playing Junk Reanimator. And this deck is much different than anything we've really seen. Brian Bronduin has given decks like this a try. What we have here is Elvish Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid, Satyr Wayfinder. You've got Courser of Krufix, 3 copies of Sylvan Primordial, 2 Ashen Riders, 2 Shadowborn Demons. There's Novzat, and then a Soul of Innistrad hanging out. And the spells, 2 Whip of Erebos, 2 Elspeth, a Garruk, 4 copies of Grizzly Salvage, and then 4 copies of Obsidian's Aid. So we have seen players try this strategy before. It looks like Chris has found a build of the deck that he's happy with.
Yeah, on John's side, he's basically playing a Jund Monsters deck that's almost identical to what CVM has had so much success with in the past, except he basically cut his Scavenging Ooze for 1 Genesis Hydra. That's the only M15 card in his deck. Basically, I guess just trying it out to see whether or not it's a good threat or not.
A Sylvan Caryatid here for Mr. Chase.
Yeah, Junk Reanimator is one of those decks where it can do some pretty abusive things. However, it struggles against Stormbreath Dragon, which happens to be a card that John has 4 of in his deck.
We've got a Sylvan Caryatid on both sides of the board now. You know, this isn't your mother's Junk Reanimator deck like we saw last year.
Yeah.
That Brian Bronduin and Chris Van Meter and a whole bunch of other people were just crushing tournaments with. It's different now. You know, you don't have Lingering Souls and a bevy of other options. No mulches. Not as good of a mana acceleration. Still pretty good, but not great. And of course, the big one is no Burial Rites.
Yeah, that's no Burial Rites is huge.
Domri comes rolling off the top. Gonna find a Goreclan Rampager. Stomping Ground will come into play tapped, and that'll be John's 3rd turn. McDaniel does have access to 3 mana. We'll see if it'll be 4 here in just a second. You see his hand, a couple copies of Courser of Krufix. He will deploy one of those right now. Top card we will find out in just a moment. And it's a forest that comes into play. And now he will tap that for mana. It's an Elvish Mystic.
Oh, wow.
So we're moving right along.
Pretty good turn there. Courser ramps his mana a little bit more. He does have an Elspeth in his hand, so potentially next turn if he gets another land. Looks like Primordial's on top of his deck, so he won't be drawing a land, but again, he'll get another reveal from the Courser, so Elspeth could come down next turn. And he dodged the bullet too, because it looks like John doesn't have a 4th land to play, so that Stormbreath Dragon won't be coming to play this turn at least.
I'm gonna start with Domri. Take a look at the top card here. Gonna leave that on top, so now the creature. This is a Scavenging Ooze card that happens to be pretty good against McDaniel's deck, but he's not all in on the graveyard. Now there's an Abrupt Decay to take care of the Courser. So Primordial will be turned face down, and that will be McDaniel's draw next turn. McDaniel, I believe, does have, you see the Goblet Shrine that he's gripping in the front of his hand, so that's a good place to start for the next turn. So Chris will untap the Caryatid and then those 3 lands. He's going to draw a copy of Sylvan Primordial, and presumably we will see an Elspeth turn here.
Well, the good news for John is because he has that Goreclan Rampager, even if Chris does play the Elspeth this turn and make 3 tokens, he should still have enough mana, enough power to trample over the tokens and kill the Elspeth.
Pretty important to get that thing off the table.
Yep.
Really, really good card against Jund Monsters. 3 Ducey McDaniel, 2-time Pro Tour top 8 competitor. Took a step away from the game for a little while, but they come back. They always do.
They always come back. It's too good of a game.
Top card, Godless Shrine, that's going to come into play tap. McDaniel's going to gain a life, go up to 18. We'll see what the top card is here from the Courser in just a moment.
Well, Primordial could come down next turn.
Yeah. On top card is a Temple of Silence.
See Big Daddy Primordial come down. That's a good way to block Stormbreath Dragon.
That card's hard for Jund Monsters to beat, actually.
Yeah.
You take a look at the removal that John Chase is playing.
He has Putrefy.
One.
One Putrefy, 1 Dreadbore, basically.
Yep. Stomping Ground going to come into play untapped here for John. That'll give him access to 5 mana. Stormbreath Dragon is a great place to start, and that's where we will go. Domri looks like it may be going down, perhaps.
We get a fight here.
Yeah.
I think you have to fight. Oh, wow. I thought you had to fight the Elvish Mystic there because you know he's got a Sylvan Primordial in his hand. Even though you don't want to fight, I think you have to fight the Mystic there to keep him off the 7 mana.
Stormbreath Dragon does win the fight against Courser. Comes in for 4. That Elvish Mystic is still hanging around. I kind of think I agree with you overall there. It's, you know, it's not something that you want to do, but it's probably something that you have to do.
Yeah, you have to keep him off 7 because you know he's got the Primordial.
Yeah. And there is the Primordial. McDaniel will pay 2 to cast it with the untapped Godless Shrine. That's going to eat Domri. Now he's going to go searching for a land. So really, really nice turn here for Chris.
Yes.
That Primordial is no joke. That's a 6/8 with reach.
Yes.
It's huge.
6/8 with the reach. Even blocks a Stormbird Dragon if it's monstrous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be tough for John to kind of fight through that right now.
Let's not forget, Bandit Commander.
Bandit Commander.
Way too good.
Really?
Yeah. It kills a permanent for each person. And you get a land for each one you kill.
That is too good.
I have heard that it's busted in Commander. I've been told. Yes. I've just been confirmed by my director, who's a big Commander fan, that the Primordial should be banned.
I love Commander. I actually wish I got to play Commander more.
Commander's great.
Imagine that was a Pro Tour, a Pro Tour format. Oof. Now we're talking.
Would it be heads up, or would you do 4-player pods?
I think you do 4-player pods.
You do pods?
Yeah.
And then just the winner just moves on and the person's eliminated, or there's probably some way to do it. That would actually be really cool.
They should think about it.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. There's a Domri. Can you imagine the testing?
Oh,
Go to the Pantheon's house.
that'd be fun.
Hey guys, what you guys working on? Get out of here. I'm working on my Yisan deck. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
We're trying to figure out what the right 120th card is.
That would be so awesome.
So McDaniel lost his Sylvan Primordial to Stormbird Dragon and Gore Clan Rampager.
Yep. Domri came down, it ticked up. That's really no big deal, though. I think still Chris is doing pretty well. He's got a bunch of mana to be able to cast these awesome cards. There's another Primordial. Take down Domri again.
Yeah, so despite losing the first, he's still in pretty good shape here. His deck has a lot of bombs in it that he can draw. And he has plenty of mana now. He can basically cast anything.
This deck kind of in like a roundabout way reminds me of like Tron and Modern. Basically like you're a big mana deck, and if what you're doing is good, like then your deck is well positioned. But if what you're doing like the opponent can deal with, like Stormbreath Dragon can work its way through some Primordial, and you're pretty weak to Stormbreath Dragon anyway, then like your deck is not good.
Yeah.
Like in the particular matchup. So Chris is already off to a 4-0 start, so clearly what he's doing is good against the decks that he's played against. Is it good against Jund monsters? Maybe yes, maybe no. So far it looks like he's a little bit behind this game.
Well, I mentioned how Stormbird Dragon has traditionally been good against this type of deck. It's not good against Primordial. That's that's a real problem card. You don't typically see this many Primordials, though. Usually you'll see a junk deck with like maybe one Primordial to kind of search for, or to hit with like a Garruk or something. But Chris here at least has 2 in his deck, and he's got that Elspeth in his hand as well. So that looks like it's being poised to get deployed next turn, and that could really just kind of put a firm hold on the game for Chris. And
now the brakes are on. I believe that was a passing of the turn.
Yeah, not even enough mana to actually monstrous Stormbird Dragon.
If you're Chris, you got to be breathing a pretty heavy sigh of relief.
Yeah.
I've made it through, finally. Now I can attempt to start turning the corner. I think there might be a 3rd Primordial in this hand, maybe?
Wow. There's another Primordial. It looks like he has a Whip of Erebos as well. Yeah. Wow. Too bad Primordial doesn't have Vigilance, too. Why not just toss that on?
I think they got it right. I do.
It's not broken enough.
Yeah, I think they did okay.
It's just good enough.
Yeah.
So Chris just examining his options. Yeah, I got to agree with you. It looks like Chris's deck is pretty well positioned for the decks that we've kind of been seeing today. The question again, though, is these decks always look good when you're not playing against Supreme Verdict decks.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's the
it's
big one.
It always comes down to that, because it's really hard for one deck to beat the 3 pillars, mono blue, mono black, and blue white. So we'll see if Chris can continue this later in the tournament. But right now, things looking good for him.
Yeah, definitely this game. You know, the Whip of Erebos, it's not going to have a lot of text right now. Lifelink will certainly be important with those big creatures. He's going to play a Forest here. Looks like he may be deploying, I think he has an Elspeth in his hand, not too sure. The Ooze is going to make the second part of Whip pretty bad. Now, if he can make the Ooze go away, he's doing okay. He's going to tap some mana here. And he's going to untap. He must make sure of himself.
Yeah, this looks like maybe an Elspeth.
Yeah. He's got 2 of those in his main deck.
Although I'm not sure why he'd play Elspeth if he attacked with the Primordial. You know, because it just die. It can potentially die to a Stormbird Dragon plus Monstrous.
That's true.
So I have to imagine he was thinking about it, but if he attacked, I think either Whip or Primordial will have to come down here. It looks like he just, oh, maybe he doesn't have Primordial in his hand either. So Whip's going to come down. So kind of awkward that he did it pre-combat after combat.
The post-combat Whip not gaining your life is a touch awkward. So Ooze is going to go removing.
Chris likely expected to play Elspeth, but then forgot about Stormbird Dragon. So still in pretty good shape, though. He's got that Whip, and he can actually whip back a Primordial next turn.
I mean, the Ooze is going to cause the problem there, of course.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So Ooze is just taking out the graveyard. So Whip basically just gives his creatures lifelink at this point.
And the problem is that Chris missed the lifelink that he could have gained last turn. I mean, maybe he did that on purpose, playing the Whip after combat. Maybe it was just a hiccup in thinking.
Well, this is going to be a tough turn for him because it looks like John drew a Mizium Mortars. So he can actually kill this Sylvan Caryatid and the Elvish Mystic and then attack for 8, it looks like. Dropping Chris to 6.
Yep. Another dragon. You know what actually makes this kind of interesting? If Chris has an Elspeth in his hand, maybe he like played the Whip with the intention of trying to get John to make his creature bigger.
Yep, that's a possibility.
Maybe he tried to hook him, and then then he plays Elspeth. He minuses because he just drew his card he drew his card really fast. He's tapping his mana really fast. So maybe he was rope-a-doping him. Yeah.
You probably attack first. I don't think he was. All
right.
I think he just made a mistake.
Well, if he attacks first, because now he whips this guy back.
Yeah, but he has another one in his graveyard.
No, his graveyard's gone.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
from the
you're right.
Yeah, so he has nothing. So now he's going to target something with Primordial.
But he basically just loses an attack, right? Because he could have just whipped next turn.
Whip next turn, sure.
Yeah.
Gonna get an Overgrown Tomb. We'll get an attack here in just a moment. McDaniel's gonna gain 6 life. He's gonna go back up to 12. We'll see if Chase wants to block or not, but.
So Chase still has a chance here with McDaniel's at 6. A top deck Stormbird Dragon could kind of help him get back into this because that Primordial will go away. It's no longer in play. It's just getting brought back with the Whip. So he won't have a way to actually deal with the Stormbird Dragon currently.
Yeah, so Chase is going to take the 6. He's going to go to 7. McDaniel's going to go up to 12 from the lifelink from the Whip. So life total's pretty high now. You see Chase's hand. He's got an Abrupt Decay. He's got an Elvish Mystic that's going to get deployed. And there's that Mizium Mortars that we spoke of earlier. But I can't really overload the Mortars at this point. There's clearly no good target out there. And Chase is kind of holding on to that Abrupt Decay, maybe trying to find a better target. I'm not sure if one's ever going to come along. So McDaniel will untap the Whip. This looks like it may be a Grizzly Salvage, and it is. So we'll take a look at 5 cards here. Let's get a little bit scary. There's a Wayfinder, a Temple Guard, and a Temple of Malady, an Obsidat's Aid, and then an Elvish Mystic. So dodge the bullet there.
Although Wayfinder's a pretty good hit.
Yeah.
At least you get to keep going.
I think that's what we're going to do. So now it's time to take a look at 4 more cards. Obsidat's Aid, Ashen Rider, 2 copies of Temple of Silence. Temple of Silence is going to go to the hand. I think that's the big deal.
Yeah, Temple of Silence goes to the hand, although Ashen Raider does go to the graveyard.
Okay, maybe that's more important. Maybe that's really good. The engine is online.
Yeah, so McDaniel's in pretty good shape here. He's be able to put Ashen Rider into play, get rid of one of John's lands.
I'm going to start by playing a Temple. Take a look at the top card here, see where he wants it to go. Consult the 1 card in hand here.
Yeah, if Ashen Rider does come into play, then John basically ends up falling to 1. And between Elspeth and Elvish Mystic and the Wayfinder, he should be dead next turn, probably.
Let's not forget, too, the Elspeth that's just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
Just kind of off to the side.
There's still an Elspeth there.
Here comes Santa Claus. Going to take care of something. Of course, when it enters the battlefield or dies, exile target permanent, excuse me. Now, of course, with Whip, the creature actually leaves play, so it shouldn't be able to exile anything on the way out, I believe.
Yeah, it's good that they added that or dies. You don't want people blinking Ashen Riders. So yeah, it looks like Elvish Mystic's going to get taken out, and John's going to fall to 2, rather. Sorry. Yep, Chris just upticks Elspeth, makes 3 tokens prior to attack. Yeah, this deck's pretty interesting. I mean, it doesn't really incorporate a lot of the new cards.
No,
That's the
no.
thing.
I mean, we've seen this before.
Yeah.
For the most part, like shells of this. It always seemed like it was difficult to find the right shell, but we've seen shells of this. Abrupt Decay going to take care of that Elvish Mystic. 5 damage going to come across. McDaniel also going to gain 5 life. There's the backup Elvish Mystic. Ashen Rider's going to leave. But I think that, well, 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess it's not a no-outer.
If he draws a land, he can overload Mizium Mortars. I don't know if there's a 2-power creature in Chris's graveyard.
That's what he's looking for right now, I think John is.
Yeah, so overloaded Mizium Mortars could buy him a turn, possibly.
Yeah. The one thing that Mizium Mortars obviously doesn't do, and it's going to get overloaded here, is it doesn't take care of the Elspeth that's on the table. That's, of course, the big problem. So there go all the creatures. There's also, I mean, there are 2 problems. Whip's out there still, too.
Yeah.
It can get back a 1/1 right now and put Chase down to 1.
But it could get, the 1/1 could be a Wayfinder, so that's going to allow him to dig for more threats. So, yeah, between Elspeth and really just Elspeth alone. Wow, so Courser comes down. Let's see. Activate Whip. Bring back Wayfinder, I'd imagine. Yep, Wayfinder comes into play.
There's a Whip, a Speth, an Urborg.
All right.
It's our first Urborg sighting.
Yeah. So that is an M15 card.
Yeah.
There you go. So fortunately for John, oh, well, I was going to say, fortunately for John, Chris didn't hit anything too good. However, there is a creature on top of his deck that is pretty powerful.
And Shadowborn Demon just happened to be hanging out on top of the deck. A card that, you know, has been underplayed in its life, I think.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and the stats are huge too. I mean, it's one of those decks that I think sort of became popular a little bit by BBD when he was playing his deck, but that deck just never caught on, and it was never really powerful enough. So, but Chris McDaniel takes the first game thanks on the power, really, of Sylvan Primordial.
Yeah,
more than anything else.
A couple of those were cast, but Veribos did some work. And he does win game number 1 here. Junk Reanimator up 1 over John to Monsters. Pretty healthy smile on his face. We'll take a look at the sideboards here. You've got John Paul Chase's Monsters deck in front of you. What do you see there?
He's got some cards that could help. I mean, he's got 1 Vraska the Unseen, which I would imagine is coming in. Another copy of Putrefied to kind of kill those Primordials. He's got an Ultimate Price, another removal spell. Really, the key card, though, is Rakdos Return. I mean, he's got 2 copies of Rakdos Return, and that's kind of the card that we were seeing when we were seeing CVM play this deck. Rakdos Return was just annihilating all the other green-based decks. Like any green-based mid-range deck, the main reason Jund Monsters had such a good matchup against them is because of Rakdos Return. So whether it was Naya or the Mirror, or now even against Junk Reanimator, I'd imagine Rakdos Return just being too good. I also kind of like, you know, he's got a Chandra Pyromaster, which I like coming in because it can pick off elves, it can pick off Wayfinders, it can also make creatures unblockable or not be able to block. He's also got 2 copies of Ligari Charm. I'm not sure you want to bring that in, but the Pithing Needle obviously can stop a Whip of Erebos. So he has a lot of options for him after a sideboard.
Other side of things here for McDaniel. See if we got any spice here. 3 copies of Reclamation Sage, 3 Sin Collector, 3 Blood Baron of Escopa, 2 copies of Centaur Healer. Haven't seen that one in a while. Vraska the Unseen and Erebos God of the Dead, a Scavenging Ooze, and a copy of Polakranos World Eater. So he's against Jund Monsters. Reclamation Sage, not so much. Sin Collector, spell count's pretty high, but
it's all Planeswalkers.
Planeswalkers, yeah. Blood Baron of Scopa, not great in this matchup. Centaur Healer doesn't really matter. Vraska the Unseen, actually pretty good at taking care of Planeswalkers. Also kill Stormbreath Dragon, so like that. Erebos God of the Dead, not really for this particular matchup. Ooze is actually okay, I think, in this kind of mid-rangey matchup that we're in. And the Singleton Polakranos is fine, just because it'll be the biggest guy on the table a lot of the time, even though it doesn't help solve the Stormbreath Dragon problem realistically.
Yeah. I'd have to imagine John is probably favored after board a little bit, just because of, I think, you know, he gets more targeted removal spells, which obviously if he has game 1, he probably wins. Like, he just needs ways to deal with those 6/8s.
Okay.
Plus, Rakdos Return is just so huge. I mean, obviously, Chris's deck is a Reanimator deck, but it's not like he's discarding unburial rights, you know? So a Rakdos return can still be very devastating against him. So I kind of still like John's position after sideboard, but it's going to be close. I mean, McDaniel can get some draws where John just can't do anything about him. But then again, he does have Scavenging Ooze. So if I had to guess, I'd say John Monsters is still probably favored games 2 and 3.
We'll see how things do break. I mean, McDaniel's deck, of course, can go from 0 to 60, but as you mentioned, there's a lot of target removal, too. Once they actually get something into play, you can just, okay, I'll just kill it.
Yeah.
Just move on with life. Even if you have to make, like, even if you're killing it at, like, a net loss, you know, Primordial's going to get him a land and kill something, but as long as the thing's not on the table,
Yeah.
that's okay.
Because you still have cards like Elspeth, Stormbreath Dragon, which are difficult for Chris deck to answer, short of blocking it, you know? Elspeth can obviously deal with it as well, but you can't always rely on that, so. You know, it's interesting. You know, Jund Monsters is a deck that I didn't think was going to go away, but I honestly thought a variation of Jund we might see would be Jund Friends, Super Friends. I thought we'd see, because of Garruk Apex Predator and Liliana and Nissa, I thought it's possible to maybe see a Jund deck that just incorporates as many Planeswalkers as possible. Like, I really like Xenagos in combination with, like, Garruk Apex Predator, because it allows you to kind of ramp to it.
Okay.
And I like Liliana, obviously. And plus, your removal suite's pretty good. Like, you get to play Abrupt Decay, which is pretty good against aggressive decks, and pretty good against control, because you can kill the Tension Spheres, and you're a Planeswalker deck. And you still can play cards like Sylvan Caryatid. You can play Corsair Prufix to kind of help you ramp. So, I don't know. I kind of like Super Friends just because Planeswalkers are so good. And you can go turn 4 Planeswalker, turn 5 Planeswalker, turn 6 Planeswalker. So, I don't know. Turn 6 being Apex Predator, as long as you have a Xenagos, you know.
It's early.
It's early.
It's early in the format. I wouldn't be surprised to see a deck like that crop up.
I want to see a Super Friends. I want to see Apex Predator.
That's actually, yeah, that's what it is.
I just want to see Apex Predator.
I know what the truth is. I want to see that thing in play too. It's my favorite card from this set by so much. And I imagine if you get that thing in play, you don't lose. I hope not. I hope you don't lose.
Especially if you're playing like Abrupt Decays to kill the Tension Spheres.
Yeah.
You know, and Thoughtseize to take out Hero's Downfall.
I would be insufferable if I had a Garruk in play. I would just be loud with every activation and just making noises. I'd be having the time of my life. It's just
it's such a good name too. Apex Predator.
Yeah.
God, I want to play that card so bad.
That card is just everything that's right about Magic.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, big and splashy and awesome. And yeah, it's hard to get in play, but it should be.
Yeah.
You know, having a card like Jace is not a good idea. You know, Jace the Mind Sculptor. So, you know, you have to pay the cost to get it in play. And if you do accomplish the mission, you should be rewarded in kind.
I mean, you'd probably play Karn in this format, right?
Well, you're asking the wrong guy. I'm never going to say no to that.
Yeah.
So I can't be objective.
So looks like both players are going to keep their hands.
John going to play a turn with Elvish Mystic. Going to go to 18 via Stomping Ground to do so. McDaniel going to draw a card for the turn. See if he has an acceleration. Just going to play a Temple of Silence. And McDaniel does have Elvish Mystic and Sylvan Caryatid as well, so.
Oh, good old turn 2 Domri. Is that what we're going to see here? This is, I played Nile a lot. This is arguably my favorite play, turn 2 Nile.
Turn 2 Domri.
Domri, yeah, it's just so good. I love it.
I'm actually going to miss Domri when it goes.
Yeah.
Pull a Chronos the top card revealed. It was good, but it wasn't too good.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about it.
I don't feel like it was ever too good. It was just, it was really good in certain matchups, but it wasn't, I think it was like a pretty powerful card that wasn't broken.
It's actually, they got to give him credit on the design of that card for it not being like too good. We're going to take a look at 4 cards here from the Wayfinder. Overgrown Tomb is going to go to the hand. With a Erebos, looks like Vraska and an Elvish Mystic going to go to the bottom because they designed a Planeswalker that can be played on turn 2, like very easily. It almost seems like it's meant to be played in turn 2.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, it's a green-red card, and green-red typically has mana acceleration. But it wasn't like overpowering or dominated games. Like, there were times when it was really good. There were times it was kind of mediocre, too.
Well, the thing about Domri is it's kind of built where it's only really effective if your deck has a high creature count. And with decks that have higher creature counts, they're not nearly as broken as decks with a lot of spells, you know? So I think it kind of balances itself out that way.
Pulacratos going to show up to the party on turn number 3. Domri is going up. Take a look, Skippoo. That's a Scavenging Ooze. That one's very good in this matchup. Going to pass the turn back over to McDaniel. Time for him to take a draw. Looks like he picked up a Forest for the turn.
Yeah, so this is the type of start that Jund Monsters needed. and the kind of start that I just don't. It seems difficult to even theorize how Junk Reanimator can kind of get out. Like
Not without
you're
any
dealing with a
acceleration.
Planeswalker and a fatty that quickly. Yeah, without the acceleration. I mean, you could say the same thing about Jund Monsters, though. Without the acceleration, the deck just looks terrible.
Yeah. Scene Collector is going to take a look at things. There's a Museum Orders for it to nab. But there's also a Putrefy along with a Scavenging Ooze. Looks like maybe 2 Oozes and then a Temple of Abandon.
We need one more person for a 4-person.
Yeah, so pretty good hand there. Plus, if John draws another land, he'll be able to Monstrous Polychronos for 2, killing both of Chris's creatures.
You know, one thing I always think about, especially with this Junk Reanimator deck, think of the previous Junk Reanimator deck that had Evanston's Pilgrim. And, God, there's another mana accelerant there. I think it may have just been Elvish Mystic. But, you know, that deck when it accelerated versus when it didn't was wildly different.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how it feels with this deck, too.
Yeah, turn 1 Avacyn Pilgrim was insane. Whereas this deck, you know, you have Elvish Mystic. It's not quite as good because it doesn't tap for white. But, yeah, I mean, you still have the same number of accelerants, but I don't know. Having that Pilgrim just seemed different. Like, just being able to tap for white is huge. It just opens up your options. But either way, I mean, this deck certainly looked good game 1. And you got a lot of powerful cards in the new sets. Looks like John doesn't have a land that can come to play on tap, so he's forced to just play Temple of Abandon. Can't Monstrous. He could Monstrous Polychronos this turn, but it would only kill a Sin Collector.
Yeah, you could probably do better than that.
Misses with the Domri. Yeah, he could play Ooze here.
Ooze is still pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be good at basically every point in the game, I think. Maybe Monstrosity Activation? I'm not in love with the Monstrosity Activation.
No.
It feels just okay. I like this better.
Yeah, just attack. See what happens. Like, you don't have to kill Sin Collector right away. I kind of like just playing Ooze here and having a green up.
Yep. So does John.
Yep, so good decision for John there. He's further putting some pressure on Chris. His board is 2 pretty good creatures along with a Planeswalker. He's got more mana than Chris, too. That's the key part. Chris just has, see, this is where Chris's deck gets awkward. He's got like these really expensive cards in his hand, no mana ramp whatsoever, and really no reanimation. You know, we're not looking at reanimating anything anytime soon.
Bit of an identity crisis with the deck.
Yeah.
At this point. His deck was working on all cylinders game 1. Now it's having some difficulty, and the thing here is what John's not really doing anything like out of the ordinary or, you know, completely busted or unfair. He's just playing creatures, playing Planeswalkers, and moving on with life.
Yeah.
You know, he's not doing anything unfair, but Chris is just having a difficulty just getting the engine started.
Yeah, and John, I think, missed with Domri last turn. So if that is a land, I would snap Overload Museum Orders. Oh no, he might have lost it with the Sin Collector.
Yeah.
But if I was gonna say if he overloads Museum Orders, just getting that mana creature off Chris's board, you just want to make sure he doesn't have any ramp whatsoever.
Needle was the draw. You saw Ooze remove a creature, so it's not a 3/3. Looks like we're going to go up to 7, so we're 1 away from Domri going ultimate. Haven't seen that for a while.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty exciting. Domri Ultimate's fairly awesome. You feel so good.
The Domri ultimate lose is very humbling.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah, I've seen. We've seen it happen on camera.
Yeah. Polychronos is going to win the fight against Sin Collector. It's a very humbling experience to lose that. In come the big dummies. For 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like McDaniel's going to take it all and go down to 9.
Looks like he's going to pass.
There's another Ooze.
All right.
There's really no punishment for, you know, extending more, playing more creatures. McDaniel can't get them off the board. He doesn't have some sort of sweeper-esque effect.
Yeah, even if he does play an Elspeth here, what is he really going to do? You know, he's just going to uptick it and make three blockers.
Yeah.
I think you're okay with that. You want another creature in play in that case.
There was the opportunity for John to play, you know, the Needle preemptively on Elspeth.
Mm-hmm.
To maybe avoid that situation. Because Elspeth would be kind of a nuisance at this point. You know, if he plays Elspeth and takes up, he can just chump block for a little while.
Yeah.
But then again, never mind, because Domri's on 7.
Yeah.
So he would just ultimate and probably just kill him. So I think Chris realizes that and he's going to concede the game. So John Paul Chase is going to win game number 2 here over Chris McDaniel. John Monsters and Junk Reanimator headed to a third game.
Yeah, and I got to say, John's T-shirt's actually pretty impressive, too. Not only his deck, but his T-shirt as well. I really am a fan.
I believe that is a Game of Thrones reference.
That is so... Do you not watch the show?
I do not.
Oh, my goodness. What are you doing?
I work.
How do
It's
you-
also a reference to Contra.
Yeah,
from the
it's a Game of Thrones / Contra reference T-shirt.
As far as what am I doing, it's called working all day.
Working all day. Everybody works all day.
No.
You don't have time to watch
I
television?
have time to do nothing.
Yeah, you have time to go to Paramore concerts.
Well, you're right about that.
I'd rather watch Game of Thrones than go to
That's
Paramore
not
concerts.
even on the same scale of things to do. You're out of your mind.
You've never seen Game of Thrones, so you have no idea. I've
watched
seen a Paramore.
I've watched the first episode of Game of Thrones.
Really?
Season 1, episode 1.
And what you didn't like it?
It was great.
Oh, yeah?
It was great.
That's just, it was great.
It was great.
And that was it. It's like, yep.
Oh, well, it was... Okay, so there was a lot to handle.
Yeah.
There are a lot of characters
There's
in that
a
show.
lot of characters.
And, if you haven't seen the first episode, well, there are some interesting things that happen at the end of the first episode of the show. And, I was like, wow, that was really something. And it's not like I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
I do. I also want to watch Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, yeah.
And, Community. Even though it keeps getting canceled, so maybe I don't want to watch Community. There are like 50 shows I want to watch.
I have to say, like, I don't just sit home all day and watch television. Yet sometimes I wonder how I am able to watch as much. Like, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. Like, there must be 28 hours in my typical day because I watch so much television, yet I still work. I mean, I don't get it.
All I want, there was a point in my life where all I did was watch television.
It's just too good.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good.
Yeah.
It's definitely good.
I'd much rather watch television than read a book. Any day.
The problem is I don't disagree with you at all. I would rather watch TV than read a book. But then, when I do read a book, I'm like, man, I should do this more.
I enjoy it when I'm traveling, but I can't just go home after a long day at work,
Fire
lay
a
on my
book.
couch and start reading a book.
just fall asleep.
I just fall asleep immediately
me
every
too.
time.
Me
And
too.
I hate admitting that to people because I feel stupid. I feel like I should be reading more, but I just don't want to.
I feel like I'm doing something wrong when I'm reading because I'm reading a book and I'm like, man, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
The book that I've been reading most recently is A Fantasy Life by Matthew Berry.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, this book is really good. Matthew Berry is a great writer.
Yeah.
And then I'll be reading a chapter, and then when I'm reading the chapter, I'll look to see when the chapter ends.
Yeah.
And it's but I'm enjoying it. Why do I want to know when it
Yeah.
ends? And then once it ends, I might yawn or something. It's the book's not boring. Why am I tired?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I'm just am I reading in the wrong light? Am I breathing incorrectly? Something has to be happening.
We
I'm
might
doing it
just
wrong.
be dumb. That's certainly an option. Maybe sometimes I just feel like if I liked books more, I should be smarter. Maybe that's just,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I want to be cultured. I want to
don't.
reading more.
I don't. I don't want to be well-rounded.
Yeah.
I want to be very smart at the 7 things that I do.
I'd rather watch Mean Girls for the 40th time than read a book. Probably.
Heck yes. See,
So good.
we understand each other.
So good.
Sure, I could learn something new, or I could recite all the lines of Mean Girls again.
Oh,
It's important that I know them all.
it's too good.
It's really important that we know all of them. And if you don't get Mean Girls references, we don't want to be friends with you.
Yeah.
So put that book down.
It's hard for me to like anyone who hasn't seen Mean Girls.
We are kindred spirits. That's what we are. Kindred souls. We understand each other way too well.
Chris McDaniel going to 5 here. Oof.
That's a lot of those. That's a lot of mulligans.
Well, if there's any deck that can come back from Mulligan to 5, it's Reanimator.
What season is Game of Thrones in? 4?
Next season will be 5th season.
5th?
Yeah.
Already?
Yeah. You got a lot of catching up to do, buddy.
I mean, I know it's great. You know what else I'm supposed to catch up on? Harry Potter.
You've never seen Harry Potter?
I've not seen a single movie.
Speaking of Harry Potter, if you're a fan of Harry Potter, you'll love Harry Potter Land in Orlando. And you know what else is in Orlando? The Grand Prix.
Yep.
I say make a trip of it. You go out a little early, you go to Harry Potter Land, and then you go to the Grand Prix. That is a nice vacation.
That is something that probably should happen.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very enjoyable experience.
That's what me and my friend Phil Napoli did the last time there was a Grand Prix in Orlando.
Yeah.
We went early because we had a lot of friends there, and we just went we went to the town. We went to Disney World, we went to Epcot,
You know how
went
many
to
Harry Potters there
Universal
are?
Studios. There's a lot of
There's
Harry
like
Potters.
100 Harry Potters. When someone says you're supposed to catch up on Harry Potter, that means that you were invested to having to watch 8 movies.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You could kind of skip the first 5.
I can't imagine that's true.
When they're really young, the movies are pretty bad.
All right.
I know I'm probably angering a lot of people out there.
Yeah, you're upsetting the audience.
I
right
don't
now.
know. I really could not sit through like the first 3 or 4 movies.
I couldn't even make it through a couple of copies of Lord of the Rings. Like, the second Lord of the Rings is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. This is a Sin Collector, a good Magic card.
Sin Collector is going to reveal, Dreadbore and
Abrupt Decay.
So
Yeah.
taking the Dreadbore here is pretty huge because Abrupt Decay doesn't have that many targets. Killing a Sin Collector is not ideal, but John does have that Genesis Hydra, so that's interesting. Let's see if that can, you probably want to cast it for 4 at minimum.
Yeah, I call it Fixed Bloodbraid Elf.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
So basically 6 mana can get you a 4-drop. That's probably a reasonable number. Anything less than that, though, you're probably not getting that much value.
Probably not, yeah. Here's a Mutavault. Pass the turn back.
So if you think of it from that perspective, I'm not quite sure I like it in this deck because it's basically a 6-drop, right?
Yeah, this deck doesn't. I don't want to say it doesn't need a 6-drop, but there are probably better 6-drops available.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like there's the Soul Cycle and a bunch of other things. There's Stormbreath Dragon. That was a good draw for John that turn.
Wow, Stormbreath Dragon. And yeah, I don't think Chris has a lot of removal, like Putrefy or Hero's Downfall type effects.
Do note that Chris's mana is a touch awkward right now.
Triple black white?
Yeah, no green.
Yep, no green whatsoever. Well, this is a mulligan to 5, right? So.
This is a mulligan to 5, yes.
But double scry, too.
What also happens, it seems like whenever we watch this deck on camera, be it me and you, or whenever I'm in the booth, when I watch a deck like this Junk Reanimator deck, the games where it accelerates, it seems like it's the best deck in the world.
Yeah.
And the games where it doesn't have an accelerant, it seems borderline unplayable.
Well, he's got, he's got a lot of fatties in his deck, so you're going to get these draws where, and it's the same reason this deck probably has to mulligan a lot too, because if you get 2 fatties in your hand with no accelerants, that's a mulligan. You just can't keep those hands against certain decks. Like, imagine a deck you're playing against Mono Blue Devotion, you cannot possibly keep that hand. And here comes Pellegrino. So yeah, Chris McDaniels, unfortunately has to mulligan to 5. Despite winning the first game, loses the next 2, and John Paul Chase wins the match and moves on to 5-0.
Yeah, John Monster's going to get the job done, move on to 5-0, taking down Junk Reanimator. You can see Chris, just kind of mulligan, not really being able to do anything. I mean, I